Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/inspireddisorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Promising Young Woman. New movie out on VOD. Roommate rented it, and I checked it out, and it was good. It's a movie that I had heard on a bunch of podcasts being brought up. It's one of those new movies out. Not quite hit a streaming service yet. I'm sure in a couple months it'll be somewhere. Written and directed by female writer, director, actress Emerald Fennell. Not sure if that's a correct spelling or not. Starring Carey Mulligan, Bo Burnham, Alison Brie. Great movie. A great movie of revenge. Kind of reminded me of like a Kill Bill, like mixed with almost like a 90s sex thriller kind of vibes to it. But the Kill Bill-ness of it is she's a woman out for revenge. She's out to seek revenge on different people who have crossed her path and wronged her in the past. It is a movie where she is kind of on her own. She's a Ronin. She's doing this on her own, but she's taking she's taking names and kicking ass in her own way, kind of kicking ass. But yeah, definitely going to be some spoilers kind of discussing this film, obviously. She, as a character, she basically baits dudes into being creepy, or she allows, it's a real tightrope walk that she's doing in this movie. Going into this movie knowing the premise that she's kind of going into bars, pretending to be drunk to lure them home and give them the shame finger. Like that could go different ways. Like it could go hustler way where the strippers just straight up drug the dudes and steal all their money, which is kind of like it's we're rooting for the bad guy in that movie in a way, but it was still a great movie. The best Scorsese movie not directed by Scorsese that year. Better than the Scorsese movie that came out that year. But there's a tightrope walk. There's a tightrope walk when you're kind of going over these things. Like it could be the remake of Black Christmas, where it was a very feminist kind of. I've heard the original is amazing, but the remake that came out like a year or two ago, very feminist heavy, and really just it almost felt like a parody of somebody who might be a feminist. So very tightrope walk going into it. How are they going to handle it? You're introduced. She's like all drunk at a bench, and there's three guys at the bar, talking, different levels of misogyny and like, oh, look at that chick, she's gonna be easy, let's get her home, kind of stuff. Which all like, thankfully, this movie walks that tightrope very well. The way it's written, the way it's directed, performed, the character really lets these dudes kind of, instead of baiting them into being creeps, aside from her just being drunk, which isn't an excuse to impose yourself on another person. But that, other than that, she's not like flirting with them at all. She's doing as from neutral and trying to get away as possible to, and just very good at just letting the creepiness of these dudes come out, which is interesting. It's interesting as a dude to see it from another angle, because I know dudes like that. I mean, when you grow up as a guy, you hear different sides of conversations, and how many dudes are out there that are just creepy assholes. Or in some instances, like this movie, rapists. But there's that fine line, especially like, with college kids and stuff like that, when everybody's drunk. It's a weird situation. It's a weird situation. But I loved how this movie really, it exposes sexual abuse in like the best way, I would say, because it's not taking any liberty, not going overboard on anything. It really kind of illustrates how ridiculous certain situations can be, especially if they're flipped, or a situation. There's a scene where she goes into a dean's office and basically is a revenge on this dean who's a female dean. All the female characters in this movie are amazing. The wife, the mom in Friday Night Lights is the dean. Great actress. I don't know her name offhand, but she's amazing. Everything I've seen her in, especially Friday Night Lights. But she plays the dean who fucked up, where there was a sexual abuse that happened that got reported. Back when this main character was in college, and similar to another movie I've seen recently, where it's like the principals, the people in charge of the school are very very adept at how to sweep issues under the rug to avoid scandal. Um and she fucked up because this chick is amazing at revenge, and you know it's a scene that it's an amazing scene that illustrates perfectly, I would say, that kind of sexual abuse that happens specifically in colleges, but all over the place. Especially when alcohol's, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's great. It's great movie. There's instances that are difficult to watch because the idea, the kind of negative way to approach anytime a woman gets sexually abused, like you want to victim shame, not everybody, but it's common to want to victim shame. It's like, well, you shouldn't have been wearing that, you shouldn't have put yourself in that situation, whatever. It's like, well, the best way to the best reality that could have happened would be for men not to rape. Clearly, that's the best thing. Just the same with like anybody who owns guns not using them to kill people. It's like we would all love that reality, but the reality is there are men that will rape, there are men that will, abuse children, there are women that will abuse children. There's like, we want evil to not exist, but it does exist. So you do have to have some kind of responsibility for what you put yourself into. And she's literally putting herself in danger. I mean, she's not drunk, she has her wits about her, but she doesn't have any like skills to defend herself in any way. But she puts herself in these situations and goes to these dudes' houses, and she scolds them or whatever. But most of the time, that's it. Like, these guys are so like freaked out that she's not sober, and that. But there's this a guy that wouldn't mind, that doesn't have any problems uh raping a drunk chick who's passed out. I mean, there's level of evil, and there's going to be guys that aren't going to give a shit that you're pretending to be drunk either. Which kind of the end of this movie, in some ways, shows how she kind of flew too close to the sun with her ability to get away with this revenge. I mean, there's a scene halfway through the movie where she's like just stopped in the middle of a freeway until a guy in a pickup truck pulls up to yell at her, and she gets out and busts his windows up. And it's like it's like a scene that shows that like her ego is taken over. Like she feels invincible at that point. But the way the movie ends not only shows how she was putting herself in danger, um, but also there's like kind of a twist in like the epilogue, I guess you would call it, of the film, where the justice in some ways was served. Like, she kind of it seemed like she, at the end of the film, she ended up in a place that was inevitable for her to end up. Like, if she was going to continue on, it was only a matter of time before something like that was going to happen. um but it's almost like she was okay with it, like she was, this whole revenge pilgrimage was, felt in a lot of ways like a last hurrah. But yeah, the way it ended was pretty great. I thought the way it handled everything, the way she got revenge, really illustrated different points and different aspects to sexual abuse. But then just also as a good movie. The only other thing that I thought, the only thing I felt was weak was there's a moment where a lawyer, she goes to confront a lawyer that had was in charge of defending primarily a lot of dudes who have sexually abused women, raped women, and he crumbles pretty easy. But maybe people like that exist that go through that, and I just think they're heartless. There's also a crazy thing that's just insane, that like the reality of how disgusting people are, that there's a scene that involves one of the characters where in college he was involved with filming sex, which wasn't sex, which was rape in that film. But just like in general, the fact that like even like the old movies like Girls Gone Wild and stuff, like just the fact that people are just completely okay with having sex, not professionally, that's a completely different thing, but like just you're at a party having sex and then just like people filming you and you're okay with that. Not to mention just the live audience that's around. It's just creepy. But yeah, it's crazy how just insane kids are in those college years, and how just it's like a powder keg for like I don't know how you can ever really manage all of that. But yeah, this movie's great, great performances, great directing, writing, acting. The story's great, the messaging in this movie's great. So check it out, rent it, buy it, or wait for streaming. It's called Promising Young Woman. Go get yourself some amazing coffee from our friends over at stationhousecoffee.com. Follow Station House Coffee on Instagram, but make sure you order yourself some small batch, single origin, premium coffee brewed in Thetford Center, Vermont, shipped directly to you, no matter where you are. Just hit them up over at stationhousecoffee.com. Give them a follow, Station House Coffee on Instagram, and get yourself some of the best coffee on the planet Earth. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Peace out!